The desperate summoning. The central chamber of the Nalori High Council fell silent as Elder Viran hobbled to the center of the circular room. His six-fingered hands trembled as he placed an ancient artifact on the pedestal, a metallic disc covered in symbols that had not been read in millennia. "We have no choice," Viran said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The Kryvax have destroyed our outer colonies. Their warships orbit Nalora Prime. Our people are dying." The 7 other council members shifted uncomfortably. The Nalori had been a peaceful species for over 5,000 years. Their blue-skinned, slender bodies and advanced telepathic abilities had helped them build a harmonious civilization across 12 worlds. They had no standing army, no weapons of mass destruction, just scholars, artists, and scientists. "The ancient texts speak of a species the Kryvax fear," Viran continued. "A species so unpredictable, so tenacious, that even the mention of their name causes the Kryvax to retreat. The texts call them humans." Councillor Mira stood, her ceremonial robes flowing around her tall frame. "Humans are a myth, Elder Viran, a story told to children." "No," Viran's voice hardened. "Our archaeological expedition on Taurus IV discovered proof. Humans existed. They fought the Kryvax 1,000 years ago and won. The Kryvax Empire still carries the memory of that defeat in their genetic memory." "And you propose what exactly?" asked Councillor Excel, the youngest among them. Viran placed a hand on the artifact. "This device was created by our ancestors during the Dark Times. It can create a dimensional bridge to summon a being from another realm. I believe we can use it to bring a human here, to save us." Gasps echoed through the chamber. "That technology was banned." Mira's voice rose with alarm. "It violates the natural order." "And what the Kryvax are doing to our people, is that the natural order?" Viran challenged. "They've already destroyed Nalora II. 8 million dead in an instant." Silence fell over the council. Through the crystal dome above, they could see the faint lights of Kryvax warships in the night sky. "Take the vote," Viran said quietly. One by one, reluctantly, the council members raised their hands. Maya Chen was in the middle of a hostage rescue operation when it happened. One moment, she was leading her special forces team through the corridors of a terrorist stronghold in the mountains of Afghanistan. The next, she was engulfed in blinding light, her body seeming to dissolve and reassemble. When her vision cleared, she found herself standing in a circular chamber, surrounded by tall, blue-skinned beings with large, almond-shaped eyes. She immediately dropped into a defensive stance, her combat training kicking in. "What the hell is this?" Maya demanded, her hand reaching for a sidearm that was no longer there. One of the blue beings stepped forward cautiously. "Are you human?" it asked in a melodic voice that somehow Maya understood. "Last time I checked," Maya replied, her eyes scanning the room for threats, exits, anything familiar. "Where am I? Who are you?" "I am Elder Viran of the Nalori. You are on Nalora Prime, 12,000 light-years from your world." The being bowed slightly. "We have summoned you because we are desperate. Our civilization faces extinction." Maya stared in disbelief, her military training the only thing keeping her from panicking. "You abducted me from Earth. Send me back now." "We cannot," another Nalori said, stepping forward. "The summoning is one way. The artifact will need to recharge for one full cycle of our sun, what you would call a year, before it can be used again." Maya felt a cold wave of realization wash over her. "You're telling me I'm stuck here for a year?" "If we survive that long," Viran said grimly. "The Kryvax Empire has surrounded our homeworld. They will begin ground invasions within days." Before Maya could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. A younger Nalori rushed in, panic evident in its movements. "Elders, Kryvax scouts have breached the city perimeter." Viran turned to Maya, desperation in his large eyes. "Human, I know we have wronged you by bringing you here against your will. But please, help us. The Kryvax fear your kind. There must be a reason. Maya closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself. When she opened them, determination had replaced the shock. First, my name is Commander Maya Chen, United States Special Forces. Second, I'll need weapons. Third, tell me everything you know about these Kryvax. Maya crouched behind a crumbling wall, watching as the Kryvax patrol moved through the deserted plaza. They were nothing like she had expected aliens to look like. The Kryvax resembled massive arachnids, with 8 segmented limbs and armored exoskeletons. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what appeared to be both natural armor and technological enhancements. Beside her, a young Nalori named Talon trembled, clutching a primitive energy weapon. "They kill everything that moves," Talon whispered. "We've never seen them take prisoners." Maya studied the patrol's movement pattern. 5 Kryvax, moving in standard search formation. They were disciplined, methodical, military. "These aren't mindless killers," Maya observed. "They're soldiers following protocols." She turned to Talon. "That energy weapon, how powerful is it?" "It can disrupt their neural pathways temporarily, but their armor absorbs most of the impact." Maya nodded. "When I give the signal, I need you to fire at the leftmost one, then immediately run to that building." She pointed to a structure about 50 meters away. "Don't stop. Don't look back." "What will you do?" Talon asked. Maya picked up a metal rod from the rubble. Something unpredictable. When the patrol moved into position, Maya gave the signal. Talon fired, the energy blast striking the leftmost Kryvax. As instructed, Talon immediately fled. 4 Kryvax turned toward the disturbance, their attention focused on Talon's retreating form. The 5th moved to check on its stunned comrade. Maya seized the moment. She sprinted silently across the plaza, approaching from the blind spot she had identified in their formation. The 5th Kryvax never saw her coming. She struck with a metal rod, driving it into the joint between armor plates where she had observed flexibility. The Kryvax emitted a high-pitched screech as Maya wrenched one of its weapons free. The other 4 turned, but Maya was already firing. The weapon discharged pulses of energy that reminded her of a shotgun's kick. 2 Kryvax fell immediately. The remaining 2 fired back, forcing Maya to dive behind a fountain. She rolled, came up in a crouch, and fired again. 1 more down, the last Kryvax charged her position, moving with surprising speed for its size. Maya waited until the last possible moment, then sidestepped. As the Kryvax barreled past, she jammed the weapon into another joint in its armor and fired at point-blank range. The entire encounter had lasted less than 30 seconds. Maya stood among the fallen Kryvax, breathing heavily. She noticed one was still alive, its limbs twitching. She approached cautiously, weapon raised. The Kryvax's mandibles clicked rapidly as it looked up at her. "Human," it rasped in a translator device. "Impossible. Extinction protocol. Failed." "What are you talking about?" Maya demanded. "What extinction protocol?" But the Kryvax had stopped moving. Maya heard footsteps and turned to see Talon returning with several other Nalori. They stared at her with a mixture of awe and fear. "You killed 4 Kryvax warriors," one whispered. "Our weapons barely slow them down." Maya examined the Kryvax weapon, familiarizing herself with its mechanics. "I need to understand more about these Kryvax, and quickly. This was just a scouting party. Their main force won't be far behind." As they hurried back to the Nalori shelter, Maya's mind raced with questions. Why did the Kryvax recognize her as human? What was this extinction protocol it mentioned? And most importantly, how was she going to keep these peaceful aliens alive against an enemy that seemed determined to wipe them out? She glanced back at the plaza where the Kryvax lay. One thing was becoming clear. Whatever ancient history existed between humans and the Kryvax, it might be the only advantage they had. In the underground sanctuary of the Nalori resistance, Maya stood before a holographic map of the city. Around her gathered 24 Nalori, their faces showing a mix of hope and skepticism. The Kryvax are using standard military occupation tactics, Maya explained, pointing to key positions on the map. They establish forward operating bases, secure resource points, and gradually tighten their control. But they're making one critical mistake. What mistake? Asked Lyra, a Nalori scientist who had been studying Kryvax technology. They're treating this like a conventional war, but you can't win like that when you're outnumbered and outgunned. Maya zoomed in on several locations. We need to fight asymmetrically. Guerrilla tactics. Hit and run. The Nalori looked confused. Viren stepped forward. Our people have not waged war in thousands of years, Commander Chen. We don't understand these concepts. Maya considered this. Think of it like water. The Kryvax are trying to be a dam. Solid, immovable. We need to be like water, finding the cracks, flowing around obstacles, wearing them down over time. Understanding dawned on some faces. The Nalori, while not warriors, were highly intelligent. I need volunteers, Maya continued. I can teach you how to fight, but I need those willing to learn. To her surprise, almost every Nalori raised a hand. The ancient texts were right. Viren said quietly to Maya, "You are unlike any species we have encountered. Most would surrender when faced with such odds." Maya smiled grimly. That's not really a human thing. 3 days later, Maya led a small team of Nalori on their first coordinated strike. They had spent every waking hour training. Basic combat moves, stealth approaches, communication protocols. The Nalori learned quickly, their telepathic abilities allowing them to coordinate with minimal verbal communication. Their target was a Kryvax communications relay. Maya had observed that the Kryvax relied heavily on constant communication with their command structure. "Remember," Maya whispered as they approached the facility under cover of darkness, "we're not trying to kill them all. We disable the relay, plant the device Lyra created, and leave. In and out in 5 minutes." The Nalori nodded, their blue skin almost luminescent in the moonlight. They moved with a grace that still surprised Maya. Once shown proper techniques, their natural agility made them excellent at stealth operations. The attack went exactly as planned. 2 Kryvax guards neutralized silently, the relay disabled, and Lyra's device, designed to feed false information into the Kryvax network, successfully planted. As they retreated through the city ruins, Maya felt a surge of pride. These peaceful scholars were adapting, learning, surviving. Back at the sanctuary, Elder Viren met them with news. "We've translated more of the ancient texts," he said, excitement in his voice. "There are references to a great war between humans and Kryvax, nearly 1,000 years ago. The texts say humans employed strategies that defied prediction and fought with the ferocity of cornered beasts, even when victory seemed impossible." Maya considered this information. "That explains why that Kryvax recognized me as human. They remember us." "There's more," Viren continued. "The texts speak of the Kryvax implementing an extinction protocol after their defeat. They systematically destroyed all evidence of human civilization in this part of the galaxy." Maya's eyes widened. "They tried to erase us from history, yet they still fear you," Viren said. "The very mention of humans causes distress among their kind. You are their nightmare, Commander Chen. And now, perhaps, you are our salvation. The Empire's nightmare." Aboard the Kryvax command vessel in orbit around Nalora Prime, Supreme Commander Vexruth reviewed the battlefield reports with growing concern. His 8 limbs twitched with agitation as he replayed the surveillance footage for the 3rd time. The human female moved with impossible speed, anticipating attack patterns, exploiting weaknesses in Kryvax armor that had been classified as impenetrable. It defied logic. "Impossible," he chittered to his second-in-command. The extinction protocol was thorough. No human should exist within 10,000 light-years of our empire. "The evidence is irrefutable," Supreme Commander, replied Zexthar. "The genetic scans confirm it. A pure human specimen, somehow on Nalora Prime." Vexroth's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress among the Kryvax. Increase planetary bombardment. Commit our reserves. I want the human eliminated before the Sovereign Council learns of this failure. With respect, Commander, Zexthar ventured cautiously. Perhaps we should withdraw our forces. The historical archives are clear about human capabilities. Vexroth turned all four of his primary eyes toward his subordinate. The Kryvax Empire does not retreat. Not now, not ever. His voice lowered dangerously. Deploy the Devastators. Level every structure if necessary, but find that human. Maya awoke to the sound of distant explosions. She had managed perhaps 3 hours of sleep, curled on a makeshift bed in what had once been a Nalori library. Now, the ground trembled as Kryvax ships bombarded the city's outskirts. They're getting desperate, said Lyra, who had been monitoring Kryvax communications through the night. Our guerrilla attacks are working. They've lost 26 units in the past week, and they can't predict where we'll strike next. Maya stretched, working out the kinks in her muscles. After 2 weeks on Nalora Prime, she had adapted remarkably well to the slightly lower gravity and longer days. The Nalori food, primarily vegetable-based, provided adequate nutrition, though she constantly craved protein. What's the latest intel? Maya asked, accepting a container of the sweet Nalori tea that had become her substitute for coffee. Lyra's expression grew grim. They're deploying Devastators, some kind of heavy assault units, and they're expanding the bombardment zone. More civilian areas are being targeted. Maya's jaw tightened. In the past weeks, she had grown to respect and care for the Nalori. Their gentle nature reminded her of her younger sister, a pediatric nurse back on Earth who had never understood Maya's decision to join the military. Show me the current deployment map, Maya said, moving to the central planning table. The holographic display showed Kryvax forces concentrating around the city's main infrastructure points. But there was a pattern to their movements that seemed oddly familiar to Maya. They're searching in a spiral pattern, she realized. They know we're underground, so they're methodically working their way inward. She studied the map carefully, but they're leaving their command center relatively unguarded. They don't expect us to attack it directly. Talon, who had become one of Maya's most capable fighters, shook his head. The command center is too heavily fortified. We couldn't breach it with twice our numbers. We don't need to breach it, Maya said, a plan forming in her mind. We just need to get close enough to access their central database. Lyra looked skeptical. What would that accomplish? Knowledge is power, Maya replied. I need to understand why they fear humans so much. What happened in that war 1,000 years ago? That information might be the key to ending this conflict. Viran, who had been quietly listening, stepped forward. The ancient archives mentioned a weakness in Kryvax psychology, something about their hive memory and traumatic imprinting. If we could access their historical records. Exactly, Maya said. We find their weakness, and we exploit it. The plan was dangerous but simple. While Maya led a small strike team to infiltrate the command center, the remaining Nalori resistance would create a series of diversionary attacks across the city. If successful, they would not only gather crucial intelligence, but also eliminate the Kryvax command structure on Nalora Prime. As night fell, Maya checked her equipment one last time. She had modified several Kryvax weapons to suit her fighting style, and wore pieces of salvaged Kryvax armor over her uniform. Remember, she told her team of 6 Nalori, stealth is our primary advantage. We avoid direct confrontation where possible. Our objective is the central database, nothing else. The Nalori nodded, their faces set with determination. What they lacked in combat experience, they made up for in courage and commitment. Commander Chen, Viran approached, carrying a small device. This is from our most sacred archives. It can interface with any technological system and download information. But it can only be used once before burning out. Maya accepted the device, recognizing its importance to the Nalori. I'll make it count. The mission began with precision. As diversionary explosions rocked the eastern sectors of the city, Maya's team approached the command center from below, using maintenance tunnels that the Nalori had mapped decades ago. The first challenge came at a security checkpoint. Two Kryvax guards blocked their path, their sensors sweeping the corridor methodically. Maya signaled her team to hold position, then removed a small device from her pocket, a modified Nalori sound projector. She activated it and tossed it down an adjacent corridor. The device emitted what sounded like Kryvax communication clicks. Both guards immediately turned toward the sound, mandibles twitching in confusion. Maya struck with practiced efficiency. The first guard fell without a sound, a precise blow to its neural cluster. The second barely had time to react before Talon's energy weapon incapacitated it. "Move," Maya whispered. They progressed through the facility, encountering minimal resistance. Most of the Kryvax forces had been deployed to counter the diversionary attacks, leaving the command center underpopulated. Finally, they'd reached the central database chamber, a vast room filled with crystalline structures that pulsated with light. "Biological data storage," Lyra whispered in awe. Their entire history, genetic memory, tactical information, all stored in living tissue. Maya inserted Viran's device into what appeared to be an access point. "How long?" 3 minutes to complete the download," Lyra replied, monitoring the process. Those 3 minutes felt like an eternity. Maya positioned her team at strategic points around the chamber, prepared for the inevitable discovery of their presence. When the alarm finally sounded, the download was 87% complete. "Hold your positions," Maya ordered as the sound of approaching Kryvax echoed through the corridors. "We need that data." The first Kryvax soldiers burst into the chamber, firing wildly. Maya and her team returned fire, ducking behind the crystalline structures for cover. 92%, Lyra called out. Maya fired repeatedly, dropping 2 Kryvax. Beside her, Talon took a glancing hit but remained standing. 95%. More Kryvax poured in. Maya realized they wouldn't be able to hold much longer. 98%. She made a split-second decision. "Fall back to the extraction point," she ordered her team. "I'll cover you." "Commander," "No," Talon began. "Go," Maya shouted, laying down suppressive fire. 100%, Lyra announced, grabbing the device. "Download complete." As the Nalori retreated, Maya held her position, firing methodically. When her weapon's energy cell depleted, she switched to another. The Kryvax seemed hesitant to approach her directly, despite their superior numbers, further evidence of their innate fear of humans. When she was certain her team had escaped, Maya prepared to follow. But as she turned to retreat, she came face to face with a massive Kryvax, nearly twice the size of the others. Its exoskeleton gleamed with decorative markings that suggested high rank. "Human," it hissed through its translator. "You should not exist." Maya raised her weapon, but the Kryvax knocked it aside with frightening speed. One of its limbs wrapped around her throat, lifting her off the ground. "I am Supreme Commander Vexroth," it said, "and you will tell me how you came to be here, human." Despite the crushing pressure on her windpipe, Maya managed a smile. "You first. Tell me why you're so afraid of us." The Kryvax's grip tightened. "Afraid? The Kryvax fear nothing." "Liar," Maya gasped. "I've seen it in every Kryvax I've encountered. The moment they recognize me as human, there's a hesitation, a primal fear." "Why?" Vexroth's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Your kind are aberrations, unpredictable. You defy the natural order of conquest." "Tell me about the war," Maya demanded, struggling for breath. "What did we do to you?" For a moment, Vexroth seemed to struggle internally. Then, almost involuntarily, he began to speak. 1,000 years ago, the Kryvax Empire encountered humans on the edges of what you call the Orion Arm. Like all species, you were to be subjugated or eliminated. But humans fought differently. Maya could hear the distress in his translated voice. Your tactics made no sense. You sacrificed strategic positions to save civilians. You attacked with inferior forces when retreat was the logical choice. You employed methods that caused minimal casualties when total destruction would have been more efficient. And this confused you, Maya realized. It did more than confuse us. It corrupted our tactical algorithms. The Kragax operate on perfect logical prediction. But humans are, the logical. You value individual life over collective advancement. You fight hardest when victory seems impossible. The corruption spread through our hive memory, causing mass confusion. Despite her dire situation, Maya felt a surge of pride. Humanity's greatest strength in the eyes of the Kragax was what they considered our greatest weakness. Our individuality, our compassion, our tenacity. In the end, Vexroth continued, we were forced to implement the extinction protocol. We destroyed all evidence of human civilization in our territory and quarantined your sector of space. The Sovereign Council declared humans too dangerous to exist alongside the Kragax. Using the last of her strength, Maya grabbed Vexroth's limb and pulled herself closer to his face. Then you should know something. Where I come from, there are billions of humans. And if your empire ever finds Earth, what happened 1,000 years ago will seem like a training exercise. Before Vexroth could respond, an explosion rocked the chamber. Through the smoke, Maya saw Talon and the others. They had returned for her. In the moment of confusion, Maya broke free from Vexroth's grip and rolled away. The Nalori laid down covering fire as she rejoined them. I ordered you to retreat, Maya gasped, massaging her throat. We decided that was an illogical command. Talon replied with the hint of a smile. Back in the Nalori sanctuary, Lyra analyzed the downloaded data while Maya recovered from her injuries. It's remarkable, Lyra said, examining the information. The Kragax have a collective consciousness linked through their central databases. Experiences, especially traumatic ones, are shared among all members of their species. And their encounter with humans was traumatic enough to be imprinted across generations, Viran added. Maya nodded, which means every Kragax soldier born in the last 1,000 years has inherited the fear of humans, even though they've never actually seen one until now. There's more, Lyra continued. Their tactical systems rely on logical prediction algorithms. They analyze all possible enemy actions and assign probability values to determine the most likely outcomes. But humans don't always make the most logical choice, Maya said, understanding dawning. We're emotional, sometimes irrational. We make decisions based on values that the Kragax can't quantify. Precisely, Lyra confirmed. When faced with human unpredictability, their entire strategic system begins to break down. Maya stood, ignoring the pain in her bruised ribs. Then we have our weapon. Not guns or bombs, but psychology. She turned to Viran. Can you broadcast a message to all Kragax in the system? The elder Nalori considered. With their command center systems compromised by our attack, yes, I believe we can. Good, Maya said. I need to speak directly to the Kragax Sovereign Council. Supreme Commander Vexroth knelt before the holographic projections of the Sovereign Council, 9 ancient Kragax whose exoskeletons had calcified with age. You have failed, declared the first Sovereign, its voice crackling with age and anger. A single human has compromised our entire campaign. We can still prevail, Vexroth insisted. Our forces outnumber the resistance 1,000 to 1. Numbers mean nothing against their kind, replied the third Sovereign. Have you learned nothing from our history? Before Vexroth could respond, the communication system overrode their secure channel. On every screen throughout the Kragax fleet, Maya Chen's face appeared. Attention Kragax Sovereign Council, she began. I am Commander Maya Chen of Earth. I speak as a representative of humanity. The council chamber erupted in clicks and hisses of distress. You recognize me, Maya continued. Your genetic memory tells you what I am, what I represent. The Nalori have shared with me the full history of our previous encounter, including details your extinction protocol failed to erase. This was a bluff. The downloaded data had provided only fragments of information, but Maya knew the Kryvax would fill in the gaps with their worst fears. I offer you one chance to withdraw your forces from Nalora Prime and all Nalori-controlled systems. In return, I will not activate the beacon. What beacon? Demanded the first sovereign. Maya's expression remained impassive. The subspace beacon that will signal Earth's battle fleet, of course. Did you think I came alone? That humanity would leave this sector unmonitored after our last encounter? Total silence fell over the council chamber. You have 6 hours to begin your withdrawal, Maya concluded. After that, I activate the beacon and you will face not one human, but millions. End transmission. The screen went dark, leaving the Sovereign Council in stunned silence. Is it possible? Asked the second sovereign. Could humans have developed such technology? Our intelligence suggested their world was primitive, Vexrov offered. Our intelligence has been wrong before, the first sovereign replied grimly. The risk is too great, if even a fraction of what she claims is true. One by one, the sovereigns voted. The decision was unanimous. Commander Vexrov ordered the first sovereign, you will withdraw all forces from Nalori space immediately. The human threat must be contained. Maya watched from the rooftop of the Nalori Council building as the Kryvax ships ascended into the atmosphere. Beside her stood Viren, Talon, and Lyra, friends forged in the crucible of war. They believed you, Viren said with wonder. Your bluff about the beacon. It wasn't entirely a bluff, Maya replied. Humans would come if they knew what was happening here. We just don't have the technology yet. Talon turned to her. The summoning device will be recharged in 10 months. You could return to your Earth. Maya gazed up at the stars, thinking of home, her apartment in Virginia, her sister in California, the life she had built. Then she looked at the Nalori city, already beginning to rebuild after the Kryvax occupation. I'm not sure Earth is where I belong anymore, she said quietly. There's a lot I could teach your people, and a lot I could learn. And if the Kryvax return? Lyra asked. Maya smiled. Then they'll find not just one human waiting for them, but an entire civilization that has learned to fight like humans. I think that might just be their worst nightmare. As the last Kryvax ship disappeared from view, Maya felt a strange sense of peace. She had been summoned across the stars against her will, thrust into a war that wasn't hers. Yet somehow, she had found a purpose greater than any she had known on Earth. So, she said, turning to her companions, what's next? Viren gestured toward the stars. There are 11 other Nalori worlds that need to learn what we now know. And beyond our systems, countless other peaceful species who live in fear of the Kryvax Empire. Maya nodded, a plan already forming in her mind. Then we have work to do. The Kryvax need to learn that their nightmare is just beginning. As dawn broke over Nalora Prime, the human and the Nalori stood together, watching their world awaken to its first day of true freedom in months. The Kryvax had retreated, but Maya knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, Earth continued its journey around the sun, unaware that one of its daughters had become a legend on a distant world. Unaware that humanity's reputation as the galaxy's most unpredictable, tenacious, and frightening species had just been reaffirmed. And Maya Chen, former U.S. Special Forces commander, now found herself with a new mission: to teach the peaceful races of this sector how to fight like humans, with courage, compassion, and just enough unpredictability to keep their enemies guessing. The Kryvax Empire had awakened their oldest nightmare, and that nightmare wasn't going back to sleep anytime soon.